So in our nation, we lose one of our loved ones every 4 minutes to addiction. That's the equivalent of a 747 crashing every day with all lives lost. In 2013, there were 249 million prescriptions for opioids in this country. That's enough for every adult in our nation to have their own bottle of pills. Simply adding more treatment beds and overdose reversal drugs is not going to solve the addiction crisis.
As a clinician, family member, and friend, I've watched as addiction has wreaked havoc in the lives of people I loved and the people I worked with. Imagine for a moment something happens and you have to go in for a simple surgery. And after you're done, your doctor prescribes some pain pills, an opioid, and you get hooked. And that addiction takes you to heroin. You never imagined for 1 minute you'd be here, right now, addicted to heroin, trying to figure out who's going to take care of your kids over the next 2 weeks or 2 months while you're away at treatment. And what about your finances? If you can't work, you're going to lose your home. You're going to end up on the streets. So what are you going to do? Well, you're not alone. In America today, there's 23 million people struggling with a substance use disorder, and of those, less than 10% are able to access the care that they need. The current system is failing. It perpetuates failure after failure, relapse after relapse, overdose, and death for far too many people. You see, there's a dichotomy in this country between those who are seen as deserving and those who aren't. If you have cancer, you're deserving. And after chemo, your neighbors bring you casseroles. If you have an addiction, they scatter, and you're left alone to figure things out for yourself. And if you can't figure things out, you lose your family, your job, you end up on the streets. It's sad, but it's your fault. We don't think it's your fault. We think that the system is failing, and we believe there's something we can do about it.
And I understand this because I'm a person in long-term recovery myself. I had my first drink when I was 11. One of my cousins gave it to me. I grew up in a family with alcoholism and with a father with mental illness. I tried cocaine at 15. I had just gotten out of a psych ward for being suicidal. What I was doing is I was using drugs and alcohol to numb the pain from my childhood trauma. And I'm not alone in that experience. After years of drinking and drugging, I knew I had to change my life. And I found my way into a boxing gym. And there was something about getting in the ring for the first time that started to chip away at my addiction and gave me a confidence I didn't have before. And then I saw this brochure for ice climbing. There was this guy on the cover on this steep ice climb, and I thought, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen, but for some reason I want to try it. So I signed up for a class, and I didn't know it at the time, but I began the path to recovery. Because there's something special you find when you tie into a climbing rope in the winter for the first time. All your worries and concerns seem to melt away. All the shame and the self-loathing that so many addicts feel, it drifts away and you're left just in that moment. All you hear is the crunch of the snow under your crampons, the sound of the ice axe when it cracks into the deep blue ice, the sound of your breath, and it drifts away and is muted by the soft falling snow. And in that moment, in that place, you have a glimpse of the possibility of who you can be, confident, courageous. Climbing would lead me to mountain bike racing and eventually triathlon, and I would eventually race the Ironman. And every time I crossed a finish line or stood on top of a mountain, I was a little bit more a climber and a little bit less an addict. I found hope on a mountaintop, but not just hope for me, hope for our whole nation.
I'm Jackie Helios, and this is Scott Strode. And together, with an amazing group of people, we've built a nonprofit organization called Phoenix Multisport. Phoenix Multisport is a sober, active community for people in recovery. It leverages the intrinsic power of physical activity and social connection to help people heal from addiction. Our programs are free. They're free for anyone with 48 hours clean and sober. So whether it's in the gym or on the mountaintop, our members find hope and they rise from the ashes of their addiction together. Over the last 10 years, Phoenix has served over 20,000 people through our free recovery support programs in California, in Colorado, and now in Massachusetts. Our members tell us that not only does being a part of Phoenix help them stay sober, they find purpose, they build community, and they live lives they never imagined possible. We get dozens of letters and calls each week from family members asking us if we can bring Phoenix Multisport to their city or their town because they have a loved one who's struggling, or because they've lost a loved one and they don't want anybody else to experience what they have. Compelled by their stories and the success that we've seen at Phoenix over the last 10 years, we believe it's our responsibility, our obligation, to bring Phoenix's free recovery support services to anyone, anywhere in the nation. So we refined our approach, and what we figured out is that we can offer Phoenix programming in a small town with one guy and a bike, and it can be incredibly successful. And we can also go to a major urban setting and operate a large anchor chapter with diverse programming that serves thousands and be successful. And every size of community in between. So we're committed to bringing this amazing resource everywhere in the nation. Because we've also figured out ways to partner with other organizations, homeless shelters, criminal justice, and treatment centers to bridge their clients and the people they serve into the Phoenix community. So whether it's Los Angeles, California, or Ithaca, New York, we're committed to leaving no one behind.
To serve one person at Phoenix Multisport, it costs roughly $500 a year. It's really a fraction of what it costs to incarcerate. And what happens at Phoenix is we come in there because we have a common experience of being somebody who struggled with a substance use disorder. But what we find there is that together at Phoenix, we face a greater adversity. It could be the rock climb, it could be the CrossFit workout. But when that clock counts down and the workout begins, and we get that fist bump when you're having a hard time and you think you're going to quit, that's what helps me push through. And in that, I build a bond with the person I'm working out next to. In those friendships is how I heal and find my recovery support. So right now in Colorado, there's a family healing at the climbing cliff because it's the first time mom and daughter got reunited in her recovery. Imagine when the little girl has to wake the other kids up to get them to school. And now mom's back in her life. Also in Boston, Massachusetts, you have a veteran who's finding the support and network that they need in the gym and the self-confidence to believe they can overcome their post-traumatic stress. They've found their tribe there that they lost when they left the military. And also in California, there's a young woman early in recovery who just finished her first obstacle course race, and now she believes she can do anything she puts her mind to, including staying sober. So I ask you guys to join us in taking Phoenix across the country into your communities. At Phoenix, we believe that together we recover. Well, let's make that the story of our nation. Thank you.